Hello and welcome to Siha's presentation for Global Health Rounds. My name is Kaylee and I am Siha's Current Affairs Coordinator as well as a nursing student here at the U of A. I apologize that I'm not able to present this live to you guys, but due to some in-person clinical training I had to record. Today you're going to hear from two of our executives, Sarah and Susan, who I will let introduce themselves later in their videos. In this presentation, you are going to learn about Siha as an organization, as well as our values, goals, and some of the projects that we have been working on and projects that we have already worked on in the past. The main goal of this presentation is to show the importance of including the community in projects and education, if that's locally or internationally, to ensure that our actions are sustained and beneficial. The reason I included our local branch is because here on campus we have such a diverse population, and when we go into remote communities, even though they may only be a couple hours away from us, they also are quite unique and have their own values and beliefs, and it is important to research and look into that to make sure that, again, we are being beneficial and we are not just assuming that we are helping, but we are actually making a standing change. Before I spoil too much, I'm going to let Sarah share a little bit more about our international branch in Tanzania.
Hi everyone, my name is Sarah. I am a fourth year nursing student and my current role with Siha is the Vice President of the International Branch. So today I'm going to be giving a general overview of Siha International. I'm going to be talking about the local team that we work alongside in Tanzania. I'll be talking about the internship we have every summer and we'll be discussing our guiding principles, so what they are and how we apply them to positively working within the community in Tanzania. So a brief overview of Siha International, so who we are and what we do. So the international branch was founded in 1989 and started working in Tanzania in 1994, and they primarily worked on public health and health promotion projects and partnerships, and we still do that today. So they worked in a rural area in Tanzania, and after a number of years, they began working closely with several locals, and they realized the need for continuity with their projects and partnerships throughout the year and a closer connection to the community. So they started working with these locals year round, and some of these locals actually still work with us today. And right now, the international branch is working primarily in Morogoro, which is a town in Tanzania, and it also works in some nearby areas. So for the internship, each summer we send a group of 6 interns to Tanzania to work alongside our local Tanzanian team, developing and evaluating projects and partnerships. So this primarily includes a lot of capacity building for Siha and a lot of documentation and background work on finances, various reports, and a lot of just documentation on our projects and partnerships. And we'll also participate in meetings with various stakeholders and on community engagement projects. So just for example, some of the things that would be within Siha's scope would be collecting and synthesizing research, connecting people and organizations, building relationships, and providing resources that align with our principles. And several things that are outside Siha's scope would be providing expertise, because we understand that we are not experts, and also the majority of physical infrastructure is outside of our scope. So I mentioned our local team before, and I'm going to talk about them a little bit more now. So our local team actually works within Tanzania, and they are local to Tanzania, and they're comprised of 3 wonderful individuals that have been working with Siha for a number of years, and they will also recruit volunteers to assist them when necessary for project work. And they really are our connection to the community, and they come up with the ideas for their various projects and partnerships, and we work together on developing and evaluating these, and they do the majority or all of the hands-on work throughout the year. So with COVID this year, we are obviously unable to send our team of interns to Tanzania, so we will instead be conducting a virtual internship. So throughout the year, the interns are going to participate in weekly training sessions, and throughout the summer, they will have virtual meetings with the Tanzanian team we work alongside, and will participate in a cultural exchange and will work on a project. So I want to talk a little bit about the preparation we do for the internship, and afterwards the preparation for this internship. So prior to the internship, the interns will complete weekly Siha 101s throughout the school year. And these sessions will include an anti-oppression seminar, Swahili lessons, sessions on our guiding principles, past project partnerships, volunteerism versus volunteerism, and just a general overview of how Siha International works and how their summer is going to look. So I have mentioned our guiding principles a few times, and I'm going to explain them a little bit more now. And they're the principles that we adhere to, and they really guide our actions and decisions while in Tanzania. So I'm going to be giving several examples from one of our current projects when I explain the guiding principles. So I'm just going to talk about a little bit about it now. So this is our WASH project. It's a project where the Tanzanians we work alongside, they go to a school and they conduct various sessions on water, sanitation, and hygiene. And afterwards, they evaluate the children's knowledge. We also funded part of a water tank for the school, and the school and the children all financially contributed to this water tank. And we created an agreement stating that the school will be responsible for the ongoing maintenance of the water tank. So our guiding principles include anti-oppressive practices, sustainable solutions, community-driven initiatives, knowledge translation, and multifaceted action. So I'm going to start by talking about multifaceted action. So this includes a multi-sectoral approach and a multilateral approach. So a multi-sectoral approach connects sectors such as education, government, and healthcare, and a multilateral approach incorporates different levels of governments within these various sectors. So, for example, with our WASH project, we worked with various social groups, we worked with the education sector, and we worked with the government sector. So, within the government sector, we worked with municipal officials to get approval for the project. And within the education sector, we worked with education coordinators, teachers, and the students to put the sessions in the curriculum and conduct the sessions. And then we also worked with a separate NGO that was conducting a similar project in the area, and we were able to mirror their curriculum. So the next one I'm going to talk about is community-driven initiatives. And these are initiatives where the community is involved in every step and they feel ownership when and in addressing their own health issues. So our WASH project idea, like all of our ideas, was brought to us by the Tanzanian team that we work alongside. And we worked alongside the teachers and the students the entire time to create the program to collect feedback. And the school was actually the one that came to our organization and requested that we assist with funding a water tank because they wanted the students to be able to apply the knowledge they were gaining from these sessions by having access to clean water. So the next one I'm going to talk about is knowledge translation, and this is reciprocal sharing of what you know with others. And for this example, I'm going to do a little bit more of an informal one. And so I went to Tanzania in 2018 and completed this internship. And one of my favorite parts of this was just sharing and discussing our different cultures when we worked closely with the Tanzanian team. I have a really clear memory of eating a supper with them and learning the traditions that they have when eating meals and then sharing the traditions that we have. And one of the members of the Tanzanian team would actually tell us an interesting fact about their culture every day, and it was definitely one of the highlights of my summer. So next guiding principle I'm going to talk about is sustainable solutions. So this is long-term thinking and planning so that the projects outlast external resources. So basically so that our projects or partnerships will outlast our involvement and we'll be able to continue without our involvement sustainably. So for example, we actually had one really interesting project where we purchased insecticide treated nets. And these are nets that are used to prevent malaria. And so these were purchased through a partner, and then we sold them at a subsidized price in conjunction with various seminars we had on malaria health education. So we evaluated this project and we did determine that the project wasn't sustainable, and it was ongoing for a few years before we determined this. And then after this, we actually successfully established a supply chain within two villages. So there were several dispensaries or small stores within the villages that were able to sell subsidized insecticide treated nets. And they did this because we were able to connect these dispensaries or stores to a distributor in a larger city in Tanzania. And previously, these villages did not have access to insecticide treated nets. They were quite rural. And so that was a really interesting project, and it's still ongoing to the best of my knowledge today. So the final one I'm going to talk about today is anti-oppressive practices. And those involve the recognition and deconstruction of intentional or unintentional oppression with the goal of equalizing power imbalances. And this is something that we emphasize really early on through our Siha 101s and from presentations we have from experts on anti-oppression. And we actually have our presentations from the Center for Race and Culture, which is a center or an organization in Edmonton. And this is also a huge driver for working alongside our local Tanzanian team and doing a lot of the background work because we understand that we are guests in their country and that they know what they need a lot better than we do. And so the Tanzanian team is really our bridge to the community, and they teach us how to respectfully interact with the community members and really just help us out every step along the way. Personally, Siha really opened my eyes and encouraged me to reflect on my own biases and to begin learning about the complexities of global health. And while I was there, it really motivated me to think about the things going on within Canada and the oppression going on within Canada. So I'm focusing on continuing to learn and educating myself on these things. So that's a bit of a brief summary of who CI International is and what we do, and a little bit about who I am. Overall, our goal is to support the community's interest in their own health and development. We will continue assessing our impact on the communities that we work with, and we'll continue to work on developing positive relationships with the community and adhering to our guiding principles. And we're going to do this through continuing education, open discussions with the locals we work alongside, and an ongoing reflection of our organization and of our actions. So thank you so much for listening and have a great day.
After hearing Sarah talk, I hope you take the time to reflect on your own biases next time you get the opportunity to work in a new community. And to remember to take some of what you've learned today or heard today with you and incorporate it into the work that you do. As healthcare professionals, I'm sure your goal is to help improve overall health, which is amazing. But in doing that, we need to make sure that our actions are actually beneficial and relevant to what the community needs. Next, we will hear from Susan, who will talk a little bit more about our local projects, and she will also mention one of our branches, our peer health educators, who like to go into rural communities and teach a lot of basic health related concepts. I've had the opportunity to work with local, and it's taught me lots about the importance of community and including them in decisions. Because what we may think is helpful in the research that we've done may not actually be relevant and may not be beneficial to what the community needs the most. So in that, we did lots of surveys, we did lots of walking around, talking to people, posters, to actually gain some more information and to gain some knowledge about what is needed and what we can do to actually help. So again, I don't want to spoil too much, so I'm going to turn it over and play Susan's video next.
Okay, so hi everyone, my name is Susan. So today I will be speaking about the local branch of Siha. As we know, Siha is an organization with multiple branches, and so Sarah, the previous speaker, talked a bit about the function of the international branch, the work they've done, and the guiding principles that they use. So I will be talking a bit more about the work that we've done, similarly using those same guiding principles of Siha, but on a local level. And you'll find that there's actually a lot of similarities between what we've done locally versus internationally. So our local branch actually consists of two programs. So PHE, our Peer Health Educator program, where we do presentations on various health topics in public schools in Edmonton, but also the rural areas in the summer. It also consists of the outreach team, which is primarily more project-based. So in this presentation, I will just be talking about the outreach team because this is where my involvement with Siha was in the past. So a bit about me. I am currently a pharmacy student. This is my fourth year with Siha. I started off as a local outreach member for 2 years, and then I became a project manager for the team for a year. And right now I'm serving more of a administrative role as the VP admin. And this is a picture of me, just because I am recording this presentation and using PowerPoint, so you won't be able to see my face if it was live. So a bit of an introduction about the outreach branch. So basically what the outreach branch does is that we provide communities, we develop community-centered health promotion projects on a local level. So we work directly with the community, which is primarily here at the U of A campus, to identify needs focused around health. And then we work together as a team in Siha to create projects that address those needs. So we're very flexible in the projects that we develop, as it all really just depends on the needs of the community. This is an overview of the main projects we've done for outreach in the past. So I just want to provide a disclaimer. Outreach has been working on new projects this year as well, but I'll just talk about the projects that we've done based off my experience with Siha, as I'm not actually part of the outreach team this year. Additionally, the circumstances around these projects may have changed this year because of COVID and what the new outreach team may be doing this year. But my role for this presentation is really just to talk about what these projects did look like based off my past 3 years with the team, so that you can get a sense of Siha and what we do. So the first project is the Safe Sex Dispenser, and this is one of our most long-standing projects, which started in 2015. So this was a year before I joined Siha. So this dispenser is currently located in Students' Union Building, just outside the bathroom on the main floor, beside the entrance to the bookstore. So this dispenser freely vends protective supplies, mainly condoms, but also other supplies such as dental dams and internal condoms. So in the past, to get these supplies, we were partnered with HIV Edmonton and the Tickle Trunk. So the supplies that we have in the dispenser does vary from time to time, just depending on what our partners can donate to us at those moments. So we'll usually always have condoms, but sometimes we might run short on dental dams and female condoms. Another thing you'll notice on this dispenser is that we have a poster that goes over the instructions for how to use these supplies. And this graphic was actually created by nursing students when we partnered with the Nursing Students Association. So I wasn't there for the origin of this project, but the goal of the project is to really improve safer sex methods in order to target the STI rates in Alberta through improving the availability, the accessibility, and the acceptability of using these protective methods. The next project that I want to talk about is our standing desks. So this project actually started the first year that I joined Siha, so I know a bit more about it. And so how this project started was that we were looking for an approach to address sedentary behavior. So one of our members consulted a sedentary behavior researcher here at the U of A, which gave us some insight into the health effects of sedentary behavior and how standing desks could possibly mitigate that. So we did a bit more background research, reviewing literature, looking at other campuses that have desks like these. Another thing that I just want to mention is that currently there's been a bit more research done into these desks, and there is some evidence that they don't actually mitigate sedentary behavior. But I think the goal of this project, when it was first implemented, was to really just increase the options available for students other than sitting. So ultimately, we partnered with U of A libraries to implement these desks in 2018. Currently, these desks are available in all of U of A's libraries. The height of these desks are adjustable, and they come with an active sitting chair, as you see here, that allows you to half sit and half stand so that you don't have to stand for prolonged periods of time. After standing desks, the next project was an awareness campaign to address the legalization of cannabis. That was also coming up that year in October 2018. The goal of this project was really just to promote awareness about cannabis, what it is, what are some of the guidelines around reducing harm when using, and also to promote awareness of the laws that will come to exist once cannabis will be legalized. So this awareness campaign was mostly targeted at students here at the U of A. It could have been broader, but typically outreach works with the campus community. There were 3 ways that we carried out this campaign. So first, we developed posters that we placed around campus, as you see here. We also built an interactive website for U of A students that contains the information that we researched into. And then we also did tabling events that had Jeopardy games in order to engage students directly and talk with them about cannabis. So here I just provided the link to that cannabis website that we developed. So you can type that link in and visit it if you feel free to. Okay, so our last and most recent project last year is the menstrual product dispenser. And this is still kind of ongoing at the moment because it hasn't been fully implemented, but we are very close. So our goal with this project is to implement a menstrual product dispenser that dispenses pads and tampons for free to students here at the U of A. So this was an idea that was brought up by one of our members a couple years ago, and then we surveyed the U of A community to identify the need for a dispenser like this. And we found out that there is definitely a need, and that students do really want a dispenser on campus. In our survey, we found that a lot of students have challenges getting access to menstrual products and the impact and distress this has on their well-being. So this told us that it made sense to start a project to implement these dispensers. Our group did a lot of fundraising to purchase the dispenser, and we are currently partnered with the Students' Union, which they help us to obtain supplies for the dispenser, as well as with the installation process. We are currently looking for this dispenser to be installed beside the student union bathrooms near where our current condom dispenser is. So we're kind of just in the process of implementing that at the moment. There's been a few technical issues, but we are troubleshooting those and hopefully it works out and we're able to implement this sometime this year. So now that I've given an overview of the projects that we've done, I just want to summarize the process of our project development. So the first step is to identify the need in the community. So there's a variety of ways to do this. So we can survey and speak to the community members. We interview community partners, like how we consulted a sedentary behavior researcher here. And sometimes we'll conduct studies as a group, as part of Siha as well. So for instance, with the menstrual product dispensers, when we were trying to figure out where to implement those dispensers, we did a trial run as a group. So we placed baskets in a variety of bathrooms across campus, and we filled these baskets with menstrual products that students could take freely. And then over the span of a week, we measured the depletion of these menstrual products, and we found out that it was the Students' Union building that had the most depletion over that span of a week, meaning that that building has the most demand for these supplies. So as a result, that's how we decided that we were to implement the dispensers in the Student Union building. And of course, we also can do background research, reviewing literature, seeing what are some common issues on university campuses in Alberta to identify what are some needs in the community. And then we'll brainstorm potential projects as a team. And then we decide on a project. So deciding on the project is really the same process as identifying a need. Because once we've identified a need, we also need to work with the community to identify an agreeable solution. So it really involves the same procedures, which is serving and speaking with community members, interviewing community partners, doing literature research in order to make sure that the project that we are deciding is indeed appropriate and will fulfill the needs of the community. And then we develop and implement the project as a team, which will also sometimes involve community members. And then we'll do post-implementation project monitoring. So we'll monitor the project after it's been implemented, which helps us to reassess needs and evaluate if our project is meeting the needs of the community. So giving an example, our safe sex dispenser first only had condoms. And then it was after it was implemented that we decided to also add in internal condoms and dental dams. Okay, so now that we've talked about the projects here that we do locally, I just want to revisit Siha's guiding principles and show you that these principles kind of fit into our local framework as well. So Sarah already talked about this in her presentation, so I'm not going to go into detail, but just a summary. So we have multifaceted action, community-driven initiatives where we're consulting with the community, identifying their needs, which I've talked about extensively. And then we have knowledge translation, which is that reciprocal communication between us and the community. So one of the reasons why we decided to do tabling events as part of the cannabis awareness campaign is because tabling allows us to engage with students, to talk with them directly, to learn from them as they learn from us. And then it's also really important that our projects are sustainable. So you'll notice that a lot of our projects are implementation based, they're very tangible. And the reason for that is sustainability. It's to ensure that after Siha leaves, that these projects are still able to exist. And another way to ensure sustainability is that we try to get as many community partners involved. So for instance, the U of A libraries, as with the standing desks, and the Students' Union with our menstrual product dispenser. And this ensures that after Siha leaves, there still are other parties that are involved in these projects that will help to sustain them. And lastly, we talked about anti-oppressive practices. So this is about equalizing power imbalances. So for the menstrual product dispensers, we decided to implement these dispensers outside of the bathrooms because we took into the consideration that if we put them in female bathrooms, then this will actually limit the access to these products for transgenders. Lastly, I just want to talk about the experiences I've had with Siha and what I've learned from them. So I've learned a lot about combating my personal assumptions and biases and developing projects that are truly for the community rather than based on our own beliefs of what is best for the community. And I've learned that in order to do this, the key is really to do research, to integrate existing evidence, to speak to as many people as possible, those that are knowledgeable in the area, and of course people that are directly in the community that the project targets. And another key component is to monitor the project after it's been implemented to really see what the impact of that project was. Being a part of Siha and working on these projects has also made me mindful and more considerate of the variety of factors that I need to consider when I'm pursuing projects outside of Siha as well. So that brings me to the end of my presentation. Hopefully, this presentation gave you a better sense of what we do at Siha, what the local projects are, and thank you for listening.
I hope that you've learned lots throughout this presentation and you are able to take some of what we've discussed and reflect on it, as well as incorporate it into any work you do in the future. It is such an amazing opportunity to be able to go into community and offer your hand and help. It is both beneficial to you personally as well as the community you are working in. Due to COVID, I was unable to work with Siha internationally, but I was able to do some international work before I came to university. I took a year off and did some health education in Papua New Guinea, as well as some training in Australia. We had to do lots of research on traditions, values, practices, as well as resources before we went into Papua New Guinea. The group that I went with had a partnership with the Papua New Guinean government, and we only did what the government asked within the scope that they had requested of us. Once we were in the communities, we would ask them as well what they needed from us specifically within that scope the government gave us. Sometimes what they had asked of us was a little bit different than what we were expecting. For example, we went to this one village that had been visited a while back by the same organization about 2 years prior. And they had asked for a soccer field. Although they didn't have running water, they didn't have health care, and overall, their health was not good. That was confusing. But when my team was able to return to this village 2 years later, we looked at the documentation and realized that the holistic health had improved a ton. We kind of were curious about this, and we asked the different village members and a bunch of the community why this was. And they talked about how this soccer field had brought them all together and built value on their neighbor. So once they valued their neighbor and they cared for each other, then they were able to implement clean water, and they were able to implement more things to better their community because they valued each other, so they wanted to take care of each other, and it was no longer a self-centered mindset. So I challenge you to look at your own bias and everything that you've learned throughout your time in university, and think about how you can learn more and how you can humble yourself to meet the needs of whoever you are working with. And although you may think that this is right and this is one way to do it, to take that knowledge and to fit it to whatever the needs of the community are. I want to thank you so much for listening to my presentation. And again, if you have any questions or concerns, I will make sure to leave my email and I will get back to you as soon as I can. Again, thank you so much for listening. I hope you have a great semester.